Hey everybody, this is Ori from AstroWeb, and in today's WordPress video, I'm going to show you how to create URL redirects using the redirections plugin. So very simply, why would you want to do redirects? So in some cases, you want to redirect a specific old page to a new page, or maybe your SEO team wants to do some 301 redirects from transferring an old site to a new site, or maybe you disabled or deleted an old post and you just want to redirect it to something more relevant, right? Maybe you updated the content and you changed the URL. So what we're doing today is we're going to show you the redirections plugin, a very popular one. I personally use it on a lot of different projects, and I wanted to showcase it to you. Okay, so first thing we're going to do right here is we're going to just do a quick installation, just show you where it is. So if you go to plugins and you click on add new, you can just search for redirects. Okay, so I can click here and I can type in redirects. Okay, and I use this one, redirection. Okay, it's a very popular one. I use it on multiple projects, but of course, please, you guys do your own research and find the one that's relevant to you. If you like the one I'm using, you can use it, but do your research. Okay, so what I did is I installed it and then I've activated it. And when you go to activate it, it's basically in the tools and redirections. So there's a new section right here. So I have two examples here, and I want to show you some of the features, some of the things you need to know about. Okay, the more popular. So first of all, at the top of the screen on the redirects, this is where you actually show all the redirects you've created. Below is where you create new redirects. Okay, so let's show you an example or two. Okay, so I have my demo site right here. And let's say I want to redirect. Let's say I have this page right here. Okay, this page is... So I'm going to copy, let's say I don't want this page anymore. Let's say I deleted it, for example. So I'm going to copy this page right here. And I'm going to put it in the source. The source basically means what's the original URL you want to redirect from. And then target means the to URL. Okay, so I'm just going to paste it right here. And let's say I want to redirect it back to, let's say the contact us, just for example, right? So I'm going to go here and I want to redirect it to the contact page. Okay, so let's go right here. Let's grab the URL of the contact page. Let's go here. Just type it in. Okay, again, this is just a demo site for our videos, so it's okay. So what I can do is I can take this and I can create and I can paste it right here and I can click on add redirect. That's it. So now if I go to that old page, right? So if I go to this page right here, okay, let me copy that. Okay, so if I go to this page right here and I type in the URL, you'll see instead of team01, it redirects me to the contact page. So now that redirect worked. So now if you refresh the page, a nice thing about this extension, this plugin, is it'll count how many times people went to that URL and how many times it triggered. So you can see how popular these old URLs are. And it helps you track this kind of stuff. Okay, so what are some other things you can do? So first of all, you can, in the settings, when you add a redirection, you can do a few things. So first of all, you can click here on the settings and you can change things. For example, maybe you don't want a 301 permanent redirect, you want a temporary redirect. So you can change to these statuses, okay? So this is one thing that's very, very common that people do. The other thing, which is a more advanced one, which we're not going to talk about too much, is the matches. So what we did is we did a simple redirect from and to, right? Very simply. But sometimes you want to have more complicated ones. For example, URL with login status. So instead of having a from redirect from the About Us page to the contact page, what you can do is you can decide if a customer is logged in or a visitor is logged in, you can redirect from that page. But if they're logged in, you can send them to a different page where, instead of if they're logged out, right? So you can actually segment these kind of things. So this is kind of an interesting one. If your WordPress site has logins, that's kind of an interesting one. And other things that are very, very advanced, you can also do things like URL and user agent, right? So you can match not just someone visiting a certain page, but a specific browser or a specific user. And you can do the same thing with IPs and cookies and things like that. So this is more advanced, but most people use this for the very, very basic things, right? Okay, what else do you have here? Okay, so in the list itself, you have the URL, the from and the to, right? The target, the source and the target. And you can also disable them, right? So I can keep it here in the list, but I can disable it. I can see the type of redirect, for example, a 301 or a 302, right? 301 is permanent, 302 is temporary. How many hits and when it was last accessed, okay? And you can do a lot of like filters right here. So you can obviously check box and you can disable, enable. So disable obviously disables, it's still there, and delete and edit. And you can also organize them. So the organization, if you start to have a lot of redirects right here, you sometimes want to organize them. So let me show you. Let me refresh the page for a second. When you create a new redirect, you can put them in a group and you can organize them into groups. Now, maybe you want to label these groups in different names. So what you can do is you can go to groups here and you can create your own logic, your own categories, your own organization. And then when you do that, when you create new ones, you can actually just organize them in the way you want. Maybe these are old posts and these are products, and the other group might be, for example, SEO company, and the other one, et cetera, et cetera. So you can actually organize them in a nice way, okay? And then obviously you can filter them, right? So if you have a lot, you can easily filter right here. Okay. Obviously you can search and you can filter them here as well. Okay. What else do we have? We have right here, site. So if you have redirects that are not just from one page to the other, you can do these big things. Maybe you redirected, you transferred to a different domain from a different domain to your domain. So you can do, maybe you have different domains pointing to your site. So you can add other domains that, for example, I set up other.com. So anytime someone goes to this server, if you point your DNS to that server, other.com gets redirected in its entirety to this, for example, new domain that we have right here. And you can also set up redirects from automatic redirects of any URL from HTTP to HTTPS, which in many cases is a good idea. And you can also remove the www, for example, something like that. So you have some settings right here. It's pretty nice. Okay. What else can you do? Okay. So logs, this is a really nice thing. So every single time a page gets triggered, you could keep it in a log, and it's really nice to have logs of everything to kind of see where things are going. Okay. Now, in your options themselves, you have a setting here to decide how long you want to keep the log. So you don't want necessarily the logs to keep for too long of a time, because then your database might get full, but you can choose this thing, right? So you can choose how long you want to keep logs. I recommend to do more than 1 week just in case, but that's up to you and your decisions for that. Okay, great. What else is there? This is also a really, really good feature I really like with 404s. So the system, anytime someone goes to your website and they don't find a page that exists, for example, someone put in a typo, for example, or maybe, they went to a page that doesn't exist. So 404 means not found, means the system doesn't know of that URL and there's no content to display. So anytime someone goes to a 404, this plugin will actually record that receipt. And then what you can do is you can actually see popular URLs that have this issue, and you can automatically create a redirect based on that and have less people go to pages that are missing, right? You want your visitors to go to content that's relevant to them. So if you see visitors going to content that's not relevant, let's create a redirect for them. This is a really good feature. A lot of apps and plugins use that. I love the 301 redirects plus the 404s in one. This app and this plugin, does it really, really well. Okay. In addition, you also have import. So what you can do, import and export. What you can do is if you have a big batch of redirects, you don't want to go one by one, type, copy, paste, type. What you can do is you can actually go and create an import, right? So you can basically go ahead, export your information right here, and then you can import. So the best thing you should do right here is just go here and create a CSV and click on downloads. Okay. And if you open that CSV, you'll see the structure. 1 second. Okay. Very simple. All you're going to do is start to add rows by rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just going to add the from and the to, and you're going to import it. And then you just go here and you import the file. Okay. So really, really simple. The last thing I want to showcase to you guys is a little bit, just one extra thing about redirects, which almost forgot. So in many cases, you want to do a redirect from one page to the other. For example, maybe the About Us page to the contact page, or maybe an old page back to the home page, right? But what you can also do with this app is you can use programmatic redirects, okay? So we call them the regex. Excuse me. So what that means is you can set up some rules that don't cover one page at a time. They actually cover a bulk list of pages. So let me give you an example what that actually means. Okay, so I actually set up one right here. Okay, so let me do that. So let's say you want to redirect the About Us page, every single page that's in the About Us folder. So maybe you have, for example, you have multiple pages for About It. Maybe you have About Us and About One, and then maybe you have About Us and company information and About Us news. So if you want to redirect all of the pages that are inside the About Us, you can do these things. You can programmatically say, I want all of the About Us pages to go a certain way, or all the pages that have a certain word, or maybe all of the pages that have the in the URL 2018 or something like that. So what would you do? You would go here and copy the information. So let me copy this, for example. Okay, you're going to copy this right here, and you're going to add to the end. You're going to click here for first of all, because you're going to decide that you want a programmatic thing to cover many things, and you're going to add this at the end. Now, there's so many ways to use regex for finding specific patterns in URLs, but this is one that's very, very simple. And so you type in anything that's with About Us that's found. I want to redirect, for example, to let's do our contact page. Okay, so contact. Okay, I want to redirect here. So when I do that, I can click here. Okay, good. So now if I go to About and whatever, anything, right? Then it's going to take me to the contact page because it matched that search, that filter. So I say, okay, if you match anything that's after that with any number of characters, for example, go redirect to that. So if I do About and I just say Ori, okay, it'll still redirect to that. Okay, and so you can do many, many creative things with that, right? So if you can also do things like, I want to keep, for example, About Us, I want to redirect to contact, but I want to keep the section that says, let's say AstroWeb, okay? And I want to redirect this to maybe contact us. So you can do many things, but if you have any questions, let me know. That's a whole other topic about how to do this. Programmers know it very well. There's a lot of tools to automate creating regex requirements. So anyways, that's it. This is the concept of this app, this plugin. Let me know what you think about it. If you use other ones, if you have any questions, really appreciate you guys listening to this video, to all the videos. Subscribe, share with others, and we'll be making more and more WordPress, Magento, Shopify, online e-commerce, and just a ton of different videos. So really appreciate you guys. Take care.